There's something to do with transport.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Lichfield District Council Planning Committee meeting. This is Monday, the 2nd of February. This is a publicly broadcasted meeting that is streamed live via our website and available on YouTube. I would ask, therefore, that you conduct yourselves in an appropriate manner. I welcome those present to the public seating area again, and ask that they be respectful to the committee members, officers, as well as those speaking. I ask that you remain seated and quiet during these proceedings. My name is Councillor Chetland, Chair of Lichfield's Planning Committee. In a moment, I'll ask everyone else participating to introduce themselves. Before doing so, can I remind everyone at the meeting to ensure that their mobile and electronic devices are set to silent or switched off. For those who have registered to speak, please ensure that the content is relevant to the material to the debate in hand and that you are mindful of your allotted speaking time. If you go over this time, you will be asked to stop immediately. When speaking for the particular benefit of those at home and those who are hard of hearing, which is me, can you please speak clearly? The Planning Committee is a non-political quasi-judicial committee bound by the National Planning Policy Framework, Lichfield's Plan, Supplementary Planning Guidance. Our decisions are informed by planning considerations tied to these policies, but it is not a pure science. We must weigh up the benefit and harm when coming to a view. The arrangements for conducting this meeting will be as follows. Officers will introduce each application. Any members of the public or applicants or agents who are registered to speak will then be invited to speak and address the committee in turn. Members are reminded to keep their questions to the point and on matters of clarification for planning issues only. Technical questions or clarification of details of the application will generally be redirected to officers. Committee members will then discuss and decide on the officer's recommendations on each application. May I also be clear that we cannot receive questions or comments from anyone in the public seating area. Please be assured the committee will aim to thoroughly question and consider all matters before it in coming to the decision. When we come to a vote, on each application, I will initially ask all members to confirm if they are minded to approve the recommendations in the report by raising their hand. I will then ask those of you voting against the recommendations or abstaining to confirm the specific planning reasons you are doing so. In the event of the vote being carried against the officer's recommendation, I will ask officers to comment on the validity of the planning reasons, and if recommended by officers, we'll ask members to vote again on whether to defer or whether to defer the item for a further report on those issues. If for any reason a member is not present for the whole of an item, they will be asked not to vote on that application. I will now ask the members and then the officers participating to introduce themselves. I'll start to my left.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Derek Cross. I'm a district councillor for the Orawas and Fradley ward.
Good evening, everybody. Councillor Joe Powell. Area is Little Aston and Stonell.
Good evening, Councillor Mears, Councillor for Highfields ward.
Good evening, David Salter, Councillor for Shenstone.
Evening, Sonia Claverley, and I'm the ward councillor for Orawas and Fradley.
Good evening, my name's Tom Marshall. I'm a councillor for Armitage with Handsacre ward.
Councillor Anne Hughes, Stowe is my ward.
Hugh Ashton, Stowe ward.
Guy Evans, Burnley Hayne Central.
Hi, Michael Galvin, councillor for Summerfield and All Saints.
Andrew Rushton, Whittington and Street Hill.
Jane Anketel, councillor for St John's ward.
Thank you. If we start at this end then, Tom.
Tom Watts, Senior Planning Officer.
John Mills, I'm Environmental Health Officer. I'm Stuart Evans, the Legal Advisor.
Evening all, I'm Kerry Challoner, Planning and Development Manager.
Christine Lewis, the Elections and Democratic Manager.
Sinead Cartwright, Governance Officer.
Thank you. Moving on to apologies. I've had apologies from Councillor Stevenson. Are there any other apologies, please?
Yes, Chair, we've received apologies from Councillor Taylor.
Councillor Taylor, thank you. Declarations of interest, please, in relation to these matters. Bear in mind, Councillor Ashton, I think you're already aware that this is the first one we're going to hear is a deferred item from 2 meetings ago, which you were unable to attend. So unfortunately, you won't be able to join in that one. Any other declarations, please?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'm the ward councillor for Fradley and Orwas, and this first application falls within my ward.
Councillor Cleverly.
For the same reason.
Councillor Ashton.
It's mentioned that I'm the City Council representative for the Friends of Lichfield Historic Parks.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, just me then. My declaration of interest is in relation to the second application for the paddle tennis courts, in that I am currently negotiating with 3 paddle tennis courts on behalf of Lichfield Sports Club. It may be considered a clash of interests if I chair that one. So my vice chair, Councillor Cross, will chair the second application. The minutes of the last meeting. Everyone had a chance to peruse them, and
Move the chair.
thank you. Any objections? In favour? Super. Moving on to the applications then. As I said earlier, this is a deferral. And this is application 23/01087/FULM. This is the Roxane UK Limited Hangar 5 Fradley Airfield. Tom Watts is the officer. Oh, sorry, no, sorry, I've got it the wrong way around.
Sorry,
Terry Challoner is going to.
I am going to be
Tom.
ably assisted by Tom Watson because he's going to do the next slide. So yeah, members may recall this from November's committee, 3rd of November, in which the application was deferred for further noise information. So we'll just give a quick recap. So next slide, please.
When you said ably assisted.
No pressure, Tom. Turn it off and turn it on. If I just remind members that this relates to a Section 73 application for a 2018 consent that permitted a building for production, storage and external works over at Fradley, and also an access. The Section 73 sought to sort of regularise outstanding conditions that relate to construction management, tree planting, and also an outstanding noise report. So there's the red line boundary, just to remind members of the site. It's part of the Roxane facility. And if we just to the east, alongside the road, I just wanted to remind members where the residential properties are. So there's residential property just next to the road along the right hand side, and then also to the north of the site. There's also a bungalow at the top there. They're the nearest properties, obviously, which we've been looking at. Next slide, please. Next slide will just be an aerial view showing the site. It's quite a sizable site. And then to this this white building down here on the right hand side is the, I think it's the warehouse delivery centre, and that's part of the Fradley employment site. Okay. Won't go over these too much, but the slides are showing the access. Photograph 2 there is the access. That was part of the 2018 consent, and that's clearly been installed. And there's some of the planting you can see in the photographs as well. Next slide, please. That photograph 3 is showing part of the acoustic fencing. Now I've marked on the bottom plan there that there's a purple line. And that purple line is showing the extent of the acoustic fencing, which has already been installed. And I'll come back to that in a second. And that's a picture showing the acoustic fencing. The next slide is from the noise assessment, which shows the plant that's on site, and that's been clarified through the latest noise assessment. I'll let John take you through the noise issues, the noise matters that we've been looking at. But just to set out to members clearly, the application was submitted in 2023, I think, with a noise survey, which we didn't think was good enough. And then the noise survey was updated last summer, and that's a noise survey that forms part of the decision that's before you today, or the recommendation that's before you today. So we'll come back to questions on that. I'll let John answer the technical questions, but it sort of pinpoints where the plant is. We go to the next slide, please, Tom. So this slide shows the boundary treatments plan, which is the latest plan, which is also referred to in the update report. And then if you click across again, it should circle. So these areas are areas where there is recommended noise barriers required, and there is currently no noise barriers. So the conditions that are recommended require them to be installed within 2 months. We have had the supplementary also sets out a response from a resident that part of that response, it's set out in the supplementary, but part of that response was that conifer hedging would be taken out, but the conifer hedging, the 2.5 metre high conifer hedging remains, and that's just in the bottom right hand corner there. The fencing would sit behind that, so we wouldn't be losing, and that's secured on the landscaping plan. So just to point that out to members. So essentially it's a section 73 application to vary conditions. The main changes related to the plant equipment, the landscaping and the cycle storage. Storage and the landscaping is pretty much being cycle storage has definitely been installed on site, and the landscaping's been planted. In terms of the noise considerations, the noise report has been reviewed, and I think John has been to site. And the conditions are 5 main conditions, and they're just summarised there. There's no additional plant to be installed, which is an enforceable condition, without the prior consent of the local authority. The additional acoustic barriers, which I mentioned slides ago, should be installed within 2 months. There are noise limits, external noise limits. Again, I'll let John answer any questions on them. Convex mirrors within the site, which was set out in the noise report, and that's because the lorries kind of do a sort of a one-way system around the building, and they sort of go around the top end of the building and come back round. Convex mirrors were requested in the noise report, and also that roller shutter doors should be kept closed when they're not open, when they're not being used for access and egress. So on a hot sunny day, they can't just leave the roller shutter doors open. They have to be kept closed. So that just goes to the planning considerations, and the summary of which was in the supplementary. So in terms of the principle of development, it was already in principle approved. It was the nitty-gritty details essentially about the noise impacts and the impacts on residential amenity, which is really important. We need to get this right. There's a range of conditions that secure the noise, secure the appropriate acoustic fencing, and allow us to monitor noise on the site if there's any issues. Other matters, cycle storage has been submitted. Cycle storage, etc. The construction management plan obviously no longer relevant because it's all been constructed, and the landscaping's been accepted as being considered as acceptable. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Before we get back to councillors, we've got one speaker tonight, same speaker as last time. Mr. Stry is going to speak on behalf of both of the people who spoke last time. So if you want to come forward, yourself a seat. It's the same system as last time. You've got 5 minutes. Remind you when you've just got 30 seconds to say keep your relevant to the application. So we're looking at that. Mr. Stry, whenever you're sat down and ready to start, feel free.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, committee members. Really appreciate you giving us this opportunity. Something that I think is quite important to flag. We're here because we sat here on the 3rd of November We sat here on the 3rd of November and had a robust discussion. There were lots of views exchanged. There was a decision made. I'm going to read out the minutes. A comprehensive noise, this is what was asked for by the committee. A comprehensive noise prevention report covering all aspects of noise from decibel level to frequencies to vibration, and then for environmental health to provide a plan to mitigate and address noise. Now, Andrew Pickering, who's the other residential owner down the road from me, I'm speaking today just because of efficiency. Both of us have been waiting for this report, explicitly called for by the committee. It didn't appear. We were given notification of this meeting for it to come back for hearing. We were astonished. We were floundering because we need data. We need evidence to back up the attenuation measures that have been proposed by the planning officer. We haven't got that data. We haven't got that information. We feel ambushed. We shouldn't be ambushed. If the committee has asked for a report, surely that should be provided. We should have an opportunity to review it so that we can come to we can accept we're reasonable people. We're not out to object for the sake of objecting, but we need information. I cannot understand how the decision of the committee can be unilaterally discarded. I cannot understand that. We're left with a problem here because we don't have the data. And remember also, we've been complaining about the noise for about 4 years. Enforcement action has been taken and got nowhere. This application as a Section 73 is effectively going to whitewash the breaches that have happened since the 2018 consent was granted. Retrospectively, just wipe it clean, and the people who are the victims of this are being ignored. We came here last time, we asked for a reconsideration, we asked for a deferral, we didn't ask for a refusal. We asked for a deferral so that we could have data, evidence to back up proposals. We've now got proposals that we feel ambushed by. I think, Andrew, you've written in, you took measurements. So one of the proposals is a noise limit on the barrier with Andrew's property of 45 decibels. Andrew took a noise measurement on the 27th of January. It's between 60 and 70 decibels. So these proposals are completely inadequate. But again, I have to ask the committee, why is it that the committee's own decision can be unilaterally ignored? We're sitting here without information and data. A couple of other points I think is important to make. My property, dead right that Andrew's property is nearer the source of the noise, but my property also has noise problems, as has been mentioned at the last meeting. We've had councillors visit and hear this as the problem. Since the 3rd of November meeting, there have been no new noise measurements at all. This has been confirmed by Jack Twomey at Environmental Health. Ignored. My property is being ignored. So why was I even heard last time? Why am I relevant if the property that I'm speaking about is just being ignored? And it is being ignored. The proposals that you saw on screen a few minutes ago included an extension to an acoustic fence of about 3 meters, 5 meters, and that's about more than 100 and 200 meters away from it. It's going to make no difference. The proposals next to Andrew's property, the property at the north, is a 2 meter high fence, which Andrew is saying, and he's written in to say this, that's going to have absolutely no difference to the noise levels. Surely, if we're going to talk about acoustic fencing, it should be at the source of the noise, not at the boundary of 2 meters around your property and practically nothing in relation to my property. But we're struggling without the information. We still don't know the sources of the noise because we're being denied this information. One final point I'd make is the proposals that have been submitted today are backed by conditions. And the history of this site is these conditions, the noise conditions to the 2018 consent have been blatantly ignored. But my question is, if we impose conditions, will they be enforced? Will they be respected? The history and the evidence is that they won't.
Time.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. We need to come back to First, to possibly address some of the points raised by the speaker, if I may. I've got one question myself, and that is, on the map plan that we've seen, is the northern acoustic barrier outside of the red line area? And if so, can we condition it? Is it there?
Yeah, it's in, part of it is in the blue line ownership of the site, so we can condition.
So we can condition it because it's within the site, but not in the red line. I don't know whether there's some questions within that anyway. I'll go for councillors first. Councillor Salter.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I have to say I concur with that speaker. I'm pleased to see an inclusion of conditions 2 to 4 on pages 9 and 10 of the report. Having myself raised the issue of the problem of noise and requesting a full spectrum survey to cover volume and frequency in both its senses, the pitch and the regularity. But I don't know that this has actually been carried out. It seems that the report suggesting recommendations based on the original noise assessment, the 20th of June 25. I ask, carrying out noise surveys, do our officers actually check the ultra and infra sound outputs of factories particularly? I mean, if this was a wedding venue or sports hall or something, people's noise is very different. We can all hear it. But when it comes to machinery, we've got frequencies beyond our own hearing ability, which can be quite irritating and actually quite dangerous to pets if you get to the high frequencies. And I just wondered if our officers carried bat detectors or something like that, a simple device to detect whether there was frequencies above 20 kilohertz. The 45 decibel limit is very good, and just for members who are not familiar with sound levels, when we did our little introduction at the start of the meeting, I put my own sound level meter on, and in this room it was about 60. So that was the noise level in this room as we introduced ourselves, which, I mean, that's bearable. So if it's down to 45, we should be okay. But if it's a constant noise, it's very different to broken speech. Sound is a peculiar thing. So actually, that's the question. Has there been another assessment, and has any assessment taken into consideration frequency as well as volume?
I'm going to ask Joe Chandler to read a further comment that was received this afternoon. Then I'm going to move across to John Mills for some information in relation to the sound management.
Thank you, Chair. So yeah, I will let John answer all of them technical questions there. But just to mention, sorry, I missed in my presentation, Fradley Parish Council did actually provide us with an objection to the application this afternoon. So it's just a late thing that come in after the supplementary. The Parish Council has been actively involved with this matter and has consistently worked to represent the concerns of the local community. The Parish Council wishes to emphasise its long-standing concerns regarding the noise impacts of the development on nearby residential properties. These concerns have been consistently raised throughout the consultations and remain valid today. We trust that all matters raised by the Planning Committee at its November meeting have now been thoroughly addressed, and we respectfully request that any decision made in favour of the applicant includes robust enforceable planning conditions that fully protect the amenity of the neighbouring residents. The Parish Council urges the Planning Committee to ensure that all conditions are properly monitored and enforced, and that the applicant is held fully accountable for complying with them, unlike on previous occasions. Fradley Parish Council remains committed to assistance during any development is delivered in a manner that respects the local environment and the community wellbeing. So apologies for that. That should have been part of my presentation, but I think I got carried away with the technical issues. So I'll pass over to John Mills now to
John Mills from Environmental Health Specialist.
Chair, we do consider low frequency and high frequency noises part of the consultation process and when we investigate complaints. I wasn't aware of any specific issues with this site and the extension to operations in regards to those specific areas. You mentioned high frequency noise and the impact that might have on animals, that would fall outside of the scope of environmental health because we consider impact on humans. Low frequency, we're normally looking at very large pieces of equipment, transformers, not sort of fixed plant that's been attached to this premises. So I didn't have any significant concerns that would warrant me requesting any detailed low frequency or high frequency analysis. Just the standard environmental noise survey, which is what has been completed.
That's fair. May I ask a supplementary, Chair?
Certainly. Councillor Salter, you know more about sound systems than we do.
Do you feel that the amended acoustic fence will lower what appears to be around the 60 decibels currently down to the 45, and will that be monitored and action taken?
Well, Chair, and in answer to your question, any acoustic fence that blocks line of sight between the noise source and the noise receiver will have a benefit, will be a benefit. The amount to which it blocks that line of sight dictates the actual amount that the noise is reduced by, but typically a barrier that reduces that blocks that line of sight, you can be looking at 5 to 10 decibel reduction, which is significant. That will depend, of course, on the height of the noise source, the height of the noise receiver. In this instance, yes, satisfied that the barriers will make a difference.
Councillor Marshall.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, just listening to what the Environmental Health Officer has said, reducing it by 10 decibels actually reduces the intensity by a factor of 10 because it's a logarithmic scale. And in fact, lowering it by 3 decibels halves the intensity of the noise, I believe it's true to say. The base level at 45 decibels is actually very, very low. That's a very low level. And I would suggest that you could be out in a fairly remote area and the decibel level of noise would be higher than you would expect. So 45 decibels is a very low level to aspire to. And 60 decibels, whilst it's in terms of magnitude is a lot greater, is still in absolute terms not a very high level of noise, as was indicated by Councillor Salter. That was the noise level in this room when we were all discussing our wards. So I'm just thinking that maybe 45 decibels is an unrealistically low level to which to aspire. And the fact that levels might exceed that, I don't think that's necessarily debilitatingly high, but that would be my view of it. I mean, I live by a fairly busy road, and I think the noise levels at our house probably exceed 60 decibels on a regular basis. It is not in any way intrusive and does not affect our quality of life.
Thank you. Councillor Mears.
Can I just ask what material the acoustic fence is made of, and whether the condition for acoustic fence to be put in place will include long-term coverage, that the fence must be repaired and replaced as needed, and that it must be to the same, if not a better standard going forwards, because materials can improve over time?
Yeah, I can answer part of that question, certainly. In acoustic fields, and the terminology acoustic fence has a specific meaning, which is a fence of a minimum density of 10 kilograms per metre square. At or above that density, you can safely assume that the noise will be prevented from travelling through the barrier, and you're making that difference in the distance it has to travel. So if you made it out of a thick wooden fence or a brick wall, it wouldn't make much difference because it's got to travel that much extra distance. So yes, an acoustic fence has a standard that it has to achieve, and yes, normally maintenance is required as part of any condition. Any noise mitigation should be implemented and maintained thereafter.
Should be. Sorry to jump in, should be, but I can see the importance of the noise for the residents. Is there anything stronger that can be put in place to put onus on maintenance and repair and keeping it instated going forwards?
Yeah, the condition does set out that the boundary treatments won't just be retained, they'll be retained in accordance with the boundary treatments plan and the noise survey and the noise information. So that's what we would consider to be reasonable in planning terms. To secure that.
Okay, Councillor Hughes.
I'm lacking any technical expertise as some of my colleagues have, but I think, notwithstanding very serious issues raised by the nearby residents, it does seem to me that we've done what was asked for, in which we were asking for further reassurance from the environment health people about noise. There are issues about enforcement, which we can only encourage people to, make sure it's as good as possible. I think those accepting the recommendation.
Councillor Marshall again.
Yeah, Chairman, I just wish to come back on the point that was made earlier, I think, about enforcement. And it seems as though there have been situations where Lichfield District Council has been approached for enforcement action. I'm not sure whether it's always been appropriately dealt with. So that is a concern for me, because if we're talking about conditioning this application, then we need to make sure that there will be scrupulous adherence to the conditions. So the very fact that historically we haven't exactly come up smelling of roses, it concerns me slightly that in future, if there are conditions which are not met, what will we do to make sure that they are complied with? That would be a concern of mine. And I think we need to show that our enforcement department is sufficiently robust in dealing with such matters.
Okay, certainly enforcement has been an issue through the time that I've been on the council, which is about 7 years now. And recently we have taken on a lot more enforcement officers and got down the numbers of actions that are being dealt with. Councillor Cross, did you indicate?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I was going to raise the same thing. Enforcement's been very weak over the years. Consequently, this is why it was brought forward by Councillor Wilcox 3 or 4 years ago. Some of these conditions would make sure that and enforce things to be done, providing enforcement, monitor it and carry it out. But we have a problem with Rock saying that most of the planning applications they put through, we approve them here and they don't abide by them. So I think these conditions do set something down that we can enforce in future. We've got the team now to do enforcement, and I'd like to see, as the ward councillor here, that is monitored and carried out quite rigorously.
We're here to make decisions in relation to the survey that's been done and the proposal in front of us. Unfortunately, we can't condition that enforcement takes place, but if we can make sure that goes back through the planning department in relation to enforcement. Anybody else wish to speak? Chairman, to accept at the moment from Councillor Marshall.
I believe it was proposed by Councillor Hughes. I'm willing to second the
proposal.
Sorry?
What is the actual proposal?
To agree.
To agree.
Right, the proposal is as per the planning officer's recommendations that these conditions be put in place and the section 73 variation be approved. To I think it's planting, but primarily noise.
I find it very difficult to approve that because they've taken no notice of the conditions we've asked them to undertake before. But we are giving them approval subject to conditions, but they've ignored the conditions.
They have, and I believe there's a 2 month time period on this one, at which point enforcement can get involved if they're not done within the 2 months. It is here because of enforcement action in the first place, to try and improve the situation. Councillor Salter.
Sorry, yes, I know you wanted to go to the vote, Chair. I just wanted to check something else on the fence situation. Can I ask for 2 parts, really? Firstly, was the extension of the fence and the type of fence used a decision by our officers, or was it an offer from the development itself? The reason I ask that is because if once this is all built and the fence is in place and sound levels don't drop to the recommended levels, if it was our officers that suggested that was the one that was to be used, the company can say, well, just what you told me to do. Whereas if they offered that and it doesn't meet requirements, we can insist that it is improved.
I think you're suggesting that if it doesn't meet the criteria as suggested by
once it's in place,
the report,
yeah.
That can it be conditioned to achieve further work to be done to achieve that level of noise?
Yeah, basically yes. But as I say, it could be on dodgy ground if it's an officer's suggestion.
I'll answer the first bit and then I've got the technical information. It was put forward in the noise report last year. It has been supported by an additional boundary treatment plan that was submitted in the last month to support that further, and that come out as part of the sort of interrogation that John was doing into the noise report that was submitted. So it wasn't something that we said you've got to do. It was on the basis of the evidence that they've provided us with that's been thoroughly tested. If you've got anything else to add.
To add to that, Chair, there have been various acoustic reports completed. The most recent one removed the detail of the return on the boundary along the southern elevation. And we've considered the noise report and the data there and requested that that's reinstated, and which they agreed to do. They said that in their opinion it wasn't required. It was to take into account any uncertainty that might exist. We've asked for that to be replaced because there was line of sight between the noise sources and the noise receptor.
It could be improved if it fails to meet the. We could insist that it is improved and bring these levels down. If it through you,
presumably, if we don't meet the levels, then enforcement get involved, and enforcement then issue a notice, and we come back to.
Yeah, just confirming that through you, Chair. In that situation, Councillor Salt, we would take enforcement action, breach of condition notice, so that we would then enforce the conditions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thanks very much for the discussion. In that case, the recommendation is to approve this variation to 73, section 73. It's proposed by Councillor Hughes, seconded by Councillor Marshall. Can I show of hands of those people in favour, please?
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9.
Those against, please.
1.
And abstentions, please.
2 abstentions. Yeah. 2 times those.
Okay, for the purpose, so that motion is carried. 4 in favour, 1 against, 2 abstained. Thank you very much for speaking. You presented extremely well, I'll be honest. I realise you haven't achieved everything that you hoped for, but if the situation continues, there is an enforcement route. By all means, get in touch with us again, and you've had I can only give a certain level of assurances that something will happen, but we have an ever improving enforcement department. That's as much as I can say at the moment. Okay, so thank you. The next application, I'd love to introduce you to you, but I'm going to absent myself now. Councillor Cross will
Okay, good evening, everybody. This is application number 25/01-483/FUL. It's land at Beacon Park, Greenhill Road, Staffordshire. This application has been reported to the planning committee due to the applicant being Lichfield District Council and the site being owned by Lichfield District Council. It's been before us before and it was approved. And there's minor amendments to the application this time. There is an error on the supplementary with the proposed location and the approved location. So I hope you've taken note of that with the supplementary report that's from the officers. Has anybody got any comments to this application, please?
The planning officer just.
Sorry. Would the planning officer like to give us the presentation? Sorry, we're just trying to move it on. That's all. Carry on, please.
Thank you, Chair. This application relates to land at Beacon Park, Greenhow Road, Lichfield, and seeks planning permission for the erection of 3 paddle tennis courts, associated facilities building and associated works. Almost identical scheme was approved by planning committee last February. The current application is submitted as an amendment to the extant permission, with the development being repositioned slightly within the park. The application is before committee because the applicant is Lichfield District Council. This slide shows a location plan. On the northern side of the park's golf course, the site lies close to Greenhow Road car park, with Morrison's and commercial development to the north and the wider parkland to the south. This aerial photograph shows the wider context. And this slide shows the previously approved position compared with the amended position now proposed. The key change between the previously approved application and this one is that the courts are repositioned approximately 6 metres to the north and 1 metre to the east. The reason for the repositioning is that since the previous approval, a number of mature trees to the north of the site were removed due to their age and condition. The revised layout has been developed to respond to that change and to reduce the impact on the younger trees to the south of the site. The proposal does not include the proposal does not increase the number of courts, does not introduce a new use, and does not represent an intensification of activity compared to the previously approved scheme. Got some photos. Photograph 1 is taken from the car park, shows the general setting. Photograph 2 is from the footpath that runs along the northern boundary. There's some photos from the corners. You can make out the younger trees in the centre. Photograph 3. It's important to emphasise the significance of the fallback position with this application. Planning permission has already been granted under the previous application last February. That permission is extant and could be implemented at any time. The current application does not increase the number of courts or intensify the activity. It simply repositions the development within the site. So the key consideration for this application is whether the proposed amendments result in any materially greater harm than the scheme already approved. And to summarise the key considerations, the principle of paddle courts at this location has already been established through the previous approval. And the amended scheme is identical in scale. The site's within the green belt, and we consider the proposal continues to fall within the MPPF exception for appropriate facilities for outdoor sport and recreation. In regards to residential amenity, noise impacts were previously assessed and remain acceptable. No concerns have been raised regarding noise. In relation to lighting, Environmental Health have requested an updated light impact assessment to reflect the repositioning, and this is secured by condition, requiring that the updated assessment be approved before any lighting is installed or brought into use. And in relation to trees, the proposal has been amended specifically in response to tree considerations, with the relocation intended to protect those younger trees to the south of the site, and the council's tree officer has raised no objection, subject to conditions. So in conclusion, the application seeks minor repositioning of the previously approved reports and does not increase the scale or intensity of development. Officers consider that the amended scheme would not result in any materially greater harm, and that outstanding matters are appropriately secured by condition. Recommendation is therefore to approve, subject to the conditions set out in the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Councillor Marshall.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm minded to recommend approval, propose approval, but I would just like to know whether the situation with biodiversity net gain has been basically met the desired level, because obviously we have a requirement to meet a certain level of BNG. Does that apply in this case at all, please?
Yes, it's a statutory condition that they have to achieve 10% biodiversity net gain. Applied to the previous application, also applies to this one.
Thank you very much. Okay, in that case, Chairman, I'm more than happy to propose approval. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. We have a proposal by Councillor Marshall. Councillor Ashton.
I'm happy to second, but I'd just like to make a comment regarding the officer's report. Section 7, I was looking at the consultation responses and I looked in vain for the Friends of Lichfield Historic Parks, which, as I mentioned earlier in this meeting, I am City Council representative to. I'll quote from the Friends website that the aims are, amongst other things, to be the main forum for consultation between Lichfield District Council and park users, volunteers, friends and local residents, through which all of these can be involved in decisions made about the parks. Their name does not appear on the list of consultees. The fact that they should be was confirmed recently in person by the Chief Executive when he met. Now, as it happens, I talked with the chair of the Friends of Historic Parks this morning, and he says that the Friends have no objections, so I am happy to second the motion. But in future, any application concerning the parks should go through the Friends of Historic Parks as well as consultees.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Ashton. Can the officers make a note of that, please?
Yeah, 1 minute that and take that on.
And anybody else got any comments they'd like to raise? Okay, shall we go to the vote then? Those in favour? Sorry? Unanimous, Chair. I don't think we need to go any further, do we? Okay, that's correct. Thank you very much, everybody. I declare on behalf of the chairman, the meeting is now closed, and thank you and the public for watching, all for coming. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Before we break, and now we're off air, can I ask a couple of